Welcome back to Aether. And this is Paul and Satomi from sakaso.ca. And we have a special guest back with us again. And this is Alex and Desiree from FirstMemory.one. And today, because we have less than 1 week left in this year and the new year is waiting for us, and then we want to share this topic, the new year, the future, rest with us, rest with you, right? And now we have a choice to make. We've been making choices, like everybody's making choices here and there, especially last, I don't know, couple of years, different choices we are asked to make, but real choice that we have to make now, right? And it's all up to us, and the choice is between either we continue to listen to the voice of fear and cling into our attachment, or allow ourselves to be manipulated, different level of manipulations all around the world, or we listen to the voice of love and let go of what's holding us back. And we say, no more, right? But the question is, how are we going to do it? And this is what we're going to talk about, how we can do it, how we're going to make this choice. Right? So we're going to start.
Well, it's a big topic, right? And we could dive into each of the elements that Satomi's touched on here. We'll try to cover as much as we can in this episode. We could talk about the voice of fear. We could talk about attachments, being manipulated, or doing the opposite of those things, and moving into it. There's a lot of things being said there. Because it's we can only either be in either fear or love, right? But how do we know the difference, right? We grow up in an environment that's often mixed, right? People have a lot of good intentions, some of them not so much, but most of the time they do. But they are also just, they're wandering through their lives, having been brought up without the kind of ideal direction that would help them, and then they try to bring us up, right? And the people that are around it, we're all kind of in the same boat, right? How do we know the difference between what is coming from fear and what's coming from love, from other people, from inside ourselves, right? Because we're capable of doing either of those things at any time, and that can take many different forms. We touched on this before, but I'll just remind the viewers just for a moment. Anything that's coming from fear, worry, anxiety, anger, depression, sadness, any of those things, and there's many others. Those are all masks that fear wears, right?
Even love, right, might be wearing a love mask, but it's actually fear inside, right?
Well, if we're clinging on to each other, right? If we're dependent, if it's a dependency, codependency, right? People often get that confused with love, right? And it's actually coming from fear, not from love, or just dependency, right?
Yeah, so we want to be able to tell the difference, right? Is this real love or it's actually fear, right?
And it's challenging for us as humans because we can't help but be dependent when we're young, right? We have to go through that phase. So it's about, as we grow up, we grow up and we move past that dependency, right, on other people, and we learn to find the source of things within ourselves, right? So there's a lot going on in these statements we have here, like the attachment, like we touched on there with the codependency, right, and the relationships oftentimes, or then being manipulated, right? If we are being manipulated on an amazing scale in the world, right? The things that are going on, whatever they are, you can pick your side, what you believe in, But the honest truth is that we have been manipulated throughout history. We're manipulated by the people that are closest to us for them to get our, they depend on our energy in some sense in many cases. We manipulate others, right?
Lots of us, we may be not aware of it, right? Being manipulated or manipulating, not aware this is normal, right? This is what we're supposed to do, but manipulation takes power away from us.
Yes, exactly.
Either one who's manipulating or who's being manipulated.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's all about taking power, or you could say energy. If you feel disempowered, your energy has been taken away.
So we want to have power back.
Yeah, that's what this is about. It's about empowering ourselves. That's what the Aether is all about. And this episode, we're kind of zeroing in on something that's really, really important for time, for ourselves and for humanity as a whole. So we've had conversations about this before, you guys. Alex, Desi, do you guys want to comment a little bit about how you see what the world is going through at this time, and what people are that like? I mean, I'm going through it too, right? I'm going through big changes, and they can be tough, right? We can we end up facing our shadows, right? And all that stuff that we haven't dealt with from our past, from growing up, from becoming who we really are. We have to do shadow work, and I think that's what we're kind of in the middle of here. How do you guys see that?
Yeah, it's for me, it's kind of hard to wrap words around it, because the changes that we're going through are happening at so many different levels simultaneously that we can talk about the individual changes we're all going through, like what we just touched upon, but really collectively and even multidimensionally, this is a very, very important time in the history of the planet, and especially of humanity. And so it's hard to really describe it with words, but in my interpretation, really what we're living through right now is truly we're going through humanity's collective shadow. Are you guys still there?
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Podcast. Yeah, we're just kind of flipping around here.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so it's a collective shadow, and in psychology, our shadow issues are those subconscious programs that are running our behavior without us being having conscious awareness of it. And I think that's exactly what's happening at a collective level right now. We have all, like you said, we've not only just been manipulated, but we have had all these unconscious drives and behaviors that have been dictating our lives for many, many generations. And right now they've gotten so loud that they're finally starting to come into conscious awareness. Yeah. And along with that uncovering of our shadow issues comes a lot of suffering and a lot of destruction, because there is no growth that can happen without destruction. And that's why this particular moment in time is so profoundly important. And all of the the sacred texts refer to this period of time. I mean, I think that most of the world's ancient wisdom traditions have some sort of prophecy that is pointing to this moment in time, because it really is that significant. So we can look at it, like I said, from the individual perspective, the things that are coming up for us as individuals with all these environmental pressures that we've been put under. We can look at it as, cultural things that we're uncovering, infrastructure, political things, the interdependence on corporations and the way we have allowed for them to run our lives. All the political shadow is coming to light, but that's still at the very human level, because there's a really big, in my opinion, there's a very, very big spiritual war happening right now that is truly like it feels like it's almost two different dimensions coming and clashing together. And the way that we show up in life right now is truly determining what the future of humanity is going to be like on the planet. So never in our lifetime, for sure, has it mattered more for us to really be aware and be really present every moment, because every little action that we take is impacting the whole in a really big way.
And we can like really simplify this too. Like, it's not that there's like good and evil, it's more like light and heavy. And if we just, even though it's a really big thing above our heads, we don't know how big the war is, what we can focus on is just our own internal empowerment. And we can focus on heavy energy and light energy, what brings those different energies to us. Because ultimately, we each need to be raising our vibration. We need to be forgiving each other. We need to be just, raising our vibration and dispelling the lies that we've been told, or just like going through everything that's happened, and becoming more pure and light. So the shamanic training that we've done taught us that there are two kinds of energy, heavy and light. And we call those Sami as light energy and Hucha as heavy energy. So there are several different things that create heavy energy in our bodies. And if we are looking at the past, we'll create heavy energy. If we are looking at the future, we'll create heavy energy. So it's probably better to just be in the present moment, because that would create Sami. And if we have regret, if we have judgment, blame, gossip, these all create heavy energies in our bodies. So you might make a judgment towards somebody else, but you're the one that has to carry that heavy weight on your physical presence and to go into your next step. So, nothing is without consequence. So that is what we mean by, you have the choice to become more light and become more aware of the energy that you're both bringing into your body and putting out there.
And by becoming more light, we're also talking about stepping more into our power, which is truly crucial, because this really is what, if we look at it from a ceremonial standpoint, and if we were living through the arc of ceremony right now, we would be in the height of the shadow phase. So right now, we're in what the Peruvians call the Ukupacha, the underworld. This is where we're wrestling with our demons. We're getting to know our shadow. We're slaying the dragon, so to speak. And it is only a matter of time before, when we pry apart what serves us and what doesn't serve us, that we will arise as new beings. And so this is a period of rebirth. But like I said, I mean, any kind of growth or rebirthing can't happen without some level of destruction and pain. And so that's kind of where we're at.
You have to know that you really hate something before you're willing to do the work to get out of that situation. So what we're facing is never going to be fun. It's never going to be like easy. And if it is easy, you're probably doing it wrong. We actually do need to step into the fire. We do need to do some difficult personal decisions for all of us. It might not feel good to do the decision, but what's happening is far worse than that decision. So our complacency is heavy, and is in our trying to pretend to be safe. Those are actually distractions. And so what we can do is we could walk into the fire together.
This is true. I mean, again, even from if we look at it from a psychological standpoint, we cannot afford to turn the other way. We cannot afford to ignore our shadow, because it will manifest in one way or another, and in subconscious ways, it will manifest. So right now we have the option to look at the things that we don't want to see, to really wake up to the fact that we are deeply manipulated, and that we are in a very it's undoubtedly a very dark point in our history. We can choose to actually dive into and wrestle with these truths, so that we can decide what's the best way to show up in life, or we can decide to remain asleep and look the other way and pretend that nothing is happening. But I don't think that's really much of a choice for us right now. I think that's the worst outcome can come from that.
You guys have said some really, really powerful things here. One that I wanted to call out first, I think, would be the fact that in order to change, we have to recognize that staying the same is more painful than going through the change, right? Change is disruptive. It's work. It means something that we hold dear to us. It might mean that it goes. We have to say goodbye to it, and that is not fun. It's not something that anybody really lines up for and volunteers and says, "Hey, I want to, totally change my whole life and turn it upside down." No, it's easier just to keep things going. But when the sort of other factors creep in and it becomes more and more painful to stay in that same place, we have to at some point face reality and recognize what's happening and be willing to take on the courage to make that shift and do the hard work. Get in and do that shadow work, like you're saying. Face reality. Be aware of what's going on in your surroundings. Be honestly aware about it, right? Look around and question what's going on in your life, in the world. Question it. And when you start to become aware of it, then at a certain point, you need to have the courage to make some shift, right? And that's to face our own shadow. And that's what it's really about. It's this, to me, I see this time for humanity, like you're saying, that we're in the shadow. You were saying we're in the dark night of the soul, Alex. And we're doing the shadow work. We're facing fighting the dragon. All those things are demons, our inner demons. That's exactly the way I see it. I could not agree more. This point in our history, it's our time to do our shadow work right now. And then this is how we get through this crisis that's in the world. We've, in the past, with other crises that the world's faced, we've kind of, been kind of like that mob that you see in the movies with the torches and the pitchforks, right? That show up at the castle and, that kind of stuff. That's not the answer. I don't see it that way this time. I see it as us becoming, what really embracing what's within us. And that by doing the shadow work and embracing what's truly within us, it transforms everything. Sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I couldn't agree more, Paul. And I just want to bring attention to the fact that, this doing our shadow work and what you're describing is an individual process. And so it's kind of turning things on its head from the, common narrative right now that to do the right thing for others, to do the right thing for the collective, we need to do what the collective is doing. We need to follow the herd, follow the crowd. It's actually the opposite. This is a time, if you want to look at it that way, to be a little bit selfish, because we need to go internal. We need to do our own internal personal work so that we can show up for the collective. Because unless we do that, our only option truly is to follow the herd. And that's okay if the herd is going in the right direction, but when the herd starts to adopt very immoral ways, who's going to stop that, right? So we need to get clear with who we are as divine beings. We need to get clear with what is truly driven from our heart, from our soul, and what other fear-based ideologies are getting in the way from us really showing up as fully empowered individuals. I think that we all need to come online right now. This is truly, and it's not just in terms of like helping one another, but it's helping future generations, because the way we show up right now is truly laying the groundwork for how our our children are going to live on this planet.
And the issue is like a lot of us don't realize, but I mean, everybody has trauma. And I think that's why most people are super distracted. It's so difficult to just go on with your day and do more and make changes in the world when you just feel too much heaviness and you can't get out of bed. And you can't even so with this trauma, there is a way out, there is a way through. And the kind of practices that we have in our empowerment program are really like a lot of people are just waiting to feel better. And you're never going to just wake up one day and be cured of your ailments. You're going to have to freaking shake. You're going to have to listen to binaural beats, reprogram your brain. You're going to have to work out. I don't know how many people I know that are like super depressed but refuse to work out. It's like it's just one of those things that if you just go and just focus on your body for a minute, you start to slough off some of that heaviness I was talking about earlier. So there's 100 practices you could do to empower yourself to get out of the stress state, to get out of the trauma state, and to get active in our world. And if not, we just stay stuck.
And it's not just working out, man. Like you said, like there's a lot of practices. We need to do whatever it is that we need to do, whatever modality resonates with us, but we got to build the courage. We have to really exercise that courage, that power center in our body, because it takes courage and it takes strength to face the uncomfortable. To even just be open-minded enough to be exposed to information that might show us that perhaps we've been duped, to show us that perhaps we've made the wrong decisions, or simply just exposing ourselves to information that is not pleasant, that is kind of, anxiety producing. It takes strength to, when we're already dealing with anxiety in our day-to-day life, to dive into this collective shadow that we're talking about. We've got to be doing our internal work. There's no other way. We cannot afford to look the other way.
So just like a quick tip of like, say you're presented information and you're really overwhelmed and you're pissed off or you're frozen and you're like, I don't want to look at this. I just want to shut down. Well, first of all, if you're in a space that you could scream, then screaming is like super powerful to just shift the state.
But hold on, let me interrupt you, because right there, if you are facing a situation where you feel too overwhelmed to look at information, that's red flag number one, that perhaps you should look at that information.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you are met with that much resistance, then it's an opportunity to question it and say, why? Why is this so overwhelming? Awesome. Why is,
So then work with the biology. And like I said, if you can't scream, which sometimes we save that for later, you can at least like let out a really rough primal sound, like that, or like just shake. And it really helps to look both ways, left to right. It really helps to look far away and just kind of take note of your environment, and then take some deep breaths, and then really take a look at the information that's triggering you. Like if you already have it figured out, then looking at the information should be just fine. You should feel the same regardless, but it's just really, really important that we just take control of our nervous systems and like take in information or like take action.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what you're saying, what you guys are saying, and that's a very good practical tip you pointed out there, Desi. And Alex, what you're saying about the red flag of the information being an overload, that's a real challenge for us right now. One of the biggest issues we're facing is that if you go online, I can find all kinds of information, videos, scientific papers, news stories, everything I'm just going to say on both sides of the current world crisis that we're going through. And what's the deal, right? So I don't want to get too far into that, but I just want to point out the fact that people are justifiably confused. There's information to support your paradigm on either side. And so how do you work through that? How do you allow someone else into the conversation when they have a different worldview and they have different facts to support it, right? And so that's kind of where we are right now, that we kind of need to question everything, and it's really important to be really humble about it, right? You know, um, it's kind of like we're in the possibility that we're in a situation where we're in the possibility of having been fighting on the wrong side. You could say that, right? And we kind of all do that at some points in our lives. We're all in the wrong at some point, and yet we're fighting and arguing with somebody about something, even just kids growing up, right? Um, um, Humility, right? And holding space for other people and their perspectives and their path, and allowing them the space to follow their path in peace and with love from yourself, even if you're diametrically opposed to it, right? Even if they are 150% against what you think, you have to step back and relax and let the process work itself through. Work with people who are able to you are able to speak to openly and honestly, and and listen to what the other person is saying in humility, like I'm saying, because you might be completely off base. Who knows, right? Who knows if we're on the right side? But if we're holding space for everybody's side and allowing that without judgment, then it takes so much of that away, right? It takes so much of that of the hoocha away, because that's what comes in. So that, like we were saying earlier, with the heavy energy, if you're arguing with somebody and you're in judgment, and you're worried about what might happen in the future, that's hoocha, right? You got to deal with that stuff first before you can really connect with people and make a real difference that matters, right? Because if we stay in this stuff, then we just end up fighting, right? We end up fighting each other. We end up fighting the bad guy, whatever that is. You put your own name on whoever the bad guy is. Everybody's pointing fingers about who the bad guy is.
But just a quick tip, I want to say that you mentioned there's two sides, right? Well, there's a third way, and that is like not picking any of those sides and like loving everybody on each side and in the middle and wherever they're at. And so, like, when we see that you have a choice between two sides, that's like obvious trickery. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like judgment and those things, anger, now what else we were talking about? Fear. That happens. We have those ones because we're disconnected to ourselves, right? So the key is, I do that all the time, is connect and then check. I go into myself and check my energy constantly, right? And then is this fear or this is love? And then this is, I think it's a practice. The more you practice, you can feel, and then you can tell yourself is in fear mode or love mode, right? And then you feel the fear, like we did earlier in the episode with, I think, Anna. We practice some like how can you tell you're in fear mode or love mode? Like you just check yourself. And then,
previous episode of Aether.
Like just pick something that you don't like, and then imagine, and you feel the tension or the feeling, whatever sensation that you're feeling, and that's the example of you being in fear mode, right? And then think about something that you love, and then check your body and feeling, and then feel that, and then you learn, okay, this is me in love mode, right? And then practice that, and then when you are feeling something, angry or frustrated, and then you can check yourself, and then, okay, I'm in fear, mode, right? Constant check will help, and then remind yourself to be connected. And then you can, that's how I do if I'm off and then having a heavy energy, I can pause and whoops, no, this is not where I want to be. So I'll switch off and then switch myself into love, right?
Mhm.
And then you you can see more why I'm having this fear, why I'm having anger, right? And then instead of pointing somebody, right, pointing finger at someone, or yourself, or I'm not good, right? And then you can get out of that state, and then you can look at the situation in a different way, and then you can find a path that has love,
Mhm.
right? And so being disconnected is the key, I think. So learn to connect, like Alex and Desiree were talking about exercise, right? That's disconnecting yourself from being disconnected, and then
But it's
you
kind of like
connect, yeah.
you're kind of how do you guys describe you're breaking the pattern that you're in.
Yeah.
You get stuck in that mode, in that tunnel vision, right? That intense projecting of judgment or fear or anything like that.
Right. And you think about it,
Mhm.
our bodies are like extended beyond us. Like this is all physical, but then there's a layer of emotion on top of that that covers our entire body. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, then there's a thinking layer which is all our stories and our whatever we think about. So we have all these fields of energy. So when you're exercising, you're shaking all of that up.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and what you said, Satomi, is very essential to get in tune with discerning where our guidance is coming from, because oftentimes fear masquerades as intuition.
Mhm.
Why
Yeah.
are you doing what you're doing? Well, because I just think it's the right thing to do, right? But people haven't really sat down and really like connected with their body. Is it truly intuition? And I'm just going to say that if there's ever a hesitation, or there is a strong electric feeling running through our bodies when we're making decisions, we should probably take a moment to take some breaths and go into a quiet space and really like ask ourselves, because I think that's a big problem. We need to make sure that we're acting from the heart.
Yeah. Really, really ask, right?
Mhm.
Not just quick ask, yeah, this is the right thing, that then you're not going deep enough, you're not coming in.
And
Yeah.
this is going to take as long as it's going to take. Maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't happen in a day. Maybe it takes weeks. Maybe it takes months. But really taking the time to fully go through that process and really make sure that we're making the right decisions. And with
Mhm.
that, something else comes to mind. Not only do we need to make sure that we take accountability over our own field and our own processes to make sure that we're coming from the right place, to keep our cognitive dissonance in place. I think there's two big things that affect us these days. One is cognitive dissonance, which is when we're presented with information that challenges our worldview so much that we decide not to look at it. Like we can't afford to look at something because it would mean that the worldview that we've worked so hard to create might not be so solid after all. So we tend to look the other way. That's something we need to be able to face. We need to be able to face opposing views with courage, because ultimately the only thing that stands is truth. So we need to get as closer and closer and closer to truth as possible, which means exposing ourselves with as many different perspectives. Going back to the scientific method, I mean, that's kind of what the whole purpose of the scientific method is, trying to punch holes in it, right? To see if you can prove it wrong, because whatever stands after that test, then that's typically the truth. So we need to go through this process. The other thing that we always, have to keep ourselves in check with is confirmation bias. which is when we come to a certain conclusion. Now we want to surround ourselves with people and with information that reinforce that conclusion. That can have detrimental effects. Again, I think we need to have the courage to expose ourselves to all sources of information, and then eventually ask our bodies, which one of those is truth. But
Before you run on with that one, you touched on a really important one for where we are today, confirmation bias. Can you please define that for the audience?
well, that's kind of what I was saying, is that, once we come to a certain conclusion, we want to surround ourselves with people and with information that reinforce that conclusion, right? So it starts to cement that.
Right.
What?
Everybody wants to be right and be told that they're right, and then that's why you surround yourself with those people. Yes, that's right, that's right.
That's correct. And so we tend to become more ethnocentric, meaning that we want to, these are my people. This is my tribe, my clan, my family. We all think alike, and fuck the rest of the people, right? So we need to keep ourselves in check and make sure that we are considering all perspectives. The
really most dangerous thing about that is dehumanization, and that's the scary.
Sorry, can you move the mic a little bit, Desi? What's the most dangerous thing?
Dehumanization. When we start to have this illusion that other people are like subhuman. They're like animal, or they deserve to be tortured, or they deserve to die, or whatever. I don't think there's ever a reason to wish harm on anybody, even if they're different from you, or even if they're an awful person. I mean, an awful person is doing enough damage to themselves.
Or that we are the only ones that hold truth with capital T.
Yeah.
And we know what's best for other people. We know what the best thing to do for them is, and that's a very dangerous thing to do. And exactly this idea of dehumanization, when it's coming from the desire to do good, is actually the most dangerous thing that we can do. If you are aware that you're causing harm upon another human being, it's almost like you are aware of what you're doing, but when you think you're helping them, I mean, just think of like the Spanish Inquisition, right? They actually thought that they were doing the best thing for them. They were saving people's souls, even if they had to burn them alive, so that in that moment of being burned alive, maybe the person would repent for their sins and accept, Christianity. So they thought they were doing good. And this is repeated over and over and over again in history. And I think that once again, we find ourselves at that crossroads. So we need to be really careful.
Yeah, what you're touching on is very, very much in the current world situation. Like we were saying earlier, we have to really challenge where we're coming from with this stuff. We have to face our own convictions and question them. Like if the folks in the Spanish Inquisition had really honestly sat down and questioned themselves, questioned what they're doing and whether it's correct, and tried something else, a lot of people would have avoided being hurt, right? So, and there's only one place that can be done, and that's here with me, right? I've got no business in other people's business, right? I have to be free from judgment of others. I have to be free of judgment of myself, right? And those are two very, you can't disconnect those two things, judgment of others and judgment of yourself. And that, again, we're coming back into that shadow work, right? So that's what it ultimately all comes back to is the shadow work, right?
Yeah, Paul, I think that you're hitting the nail on the head. That is, in my personal opinion, that is at the core of what this collective shadow we're in is. The two opposing worldviews, one being that we are divine beings, that we are not just living on the earth, but that we are earth, and that we are guided by spirit, and that we are built in the image of God.
Wow. Yeah. Oh,
Built.
wow. That's so deep and so powerful. That's exactly the message that, we have. If we're going to give a message to the world, that's what we would give. That's what we want for people, is to have that understanding that they are divine. They are far more. There's far more about being who we are or what we are, because we don't really know what we are. We're like this complete mystery to ourselves, right? There's so much more inside of us that can come through simply by removing the barriers, right?
Man, and we have no idea how powerful we really are.
Yeah.
We have no idea how powerful our bodies really are. Like we really don't. And I'm saying all of us. We we very rarely can tap into that place where we get glimpses of, oh my God, like these bodies are amazing. They truly do have the wisdom of millions and millions of years of evolution. We can't even understand the knowledge that they have. So, but to my point, that's kind of like one worldview, but there is an opposing worldview that doesn't seem to see things that way, and that sees reality as this hierarchical level of existence where, one group of people does tend to feel entitled to make decisions for another group of people. And they actually want to make us forget that we are divine beings. They want to make us forget just how powerful we are. Because if we do, then we no longer bow to them,
and
right?
give our power away.
So that is truly the fight that's happening right now. And with this awareness, that brings up a lot of questions as we're trying to make sense of the information. And like you said, we've got scientific studies on both sides and everything. That should always be, at the core of the question. Is this bringing me closer to my own self-organizing power? Or is this making me rely on mommy and daddy, whatever that energy happens to look like?
I totally agree with you right there. Please don't let me interrupt your flow of thinking here, but that connection between the facts that we might be able to find out there amongst our friends, online, whatever, does not necessarily translate into truth, right? So what does, right? When you look, because I could find it on this side, I could find it on that side, I can make a pile on both sides and say, well, all this technical stuff says one thing and all this technical stuff says another. Well, which one empowers me and which one doesn't, right? Which one offers possibility and which one offers a grander future and empowerment to humanity, and which one doesn't, right? Those are the kind of things to look at when you're looking at perspectives, evidence, the things that are being said in conversation at a given time, right? So, please continue with what you're saying. I'm sorry, I had to jump in.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, I think that, what helps me, Paul, is to, and I think we could all benefit from this, is understanding a little bit more about the elements of hypnosis, the elements of trance, and how these ways of manipulating can be used against us to present information, right? So there's certain things that we can look at, and one of those things, for instance, is to make us focus on one thing, right? And when it's like that metronome thing in a trance. When you're focused on the metronome, it's easier to be, to receive suggestions to be put in a certain state of mind. So again, what we've been going through for the past 2 years is a hyper focus on one topic. And so that's something to look at. Another thing to look at that is very easy to get us to from manipulating people is the sense of division, right? When it's creating a sense of us versus them, it doesn't matter what that looks like, if it's based around sex or gender or sexual orientation or, you know, whatever it is. Anytime that two slices of the population are pitted up against one another, it should be another red flag. Why? Right? Why? And I think that's the most powerful question we can ask is why? What is underneath all this? Who is driving this agenda? What's behind all this? Another thing to watch out for is any time that we're being pressured to make a decision. Okay, so like I was saying, Satomi said, well, we need to discern whether our ideas are coming from love and fear. Maybe that takes an hour of sitting down in meditation to figure that out, but maybe it takes months. We need to have months, maybe years to make up our mind. And anytime that we're being pressured, you got to do it now. You need a sign right here. And I'm not even going to let you read the whole contract. I just need your signature right now. That's a really big red flag.
Yeah, say no.
You know what I mean? Because if any time that information is being hidden, that's a really red flag. Truth cannot be hidden.
If we want to be really accurate, we have to balance the intuitive mind with the scientific mind, with the left brain, with the right brain. And it just takes longer to get into each one of those. If people aren't used to being intuitive, they do need to work at it. If they aren't used to being scientific, it's really important to stretch yourself and go there. And then, balance the two to make a really more logical decision.
Mm-hmm. Like we've seen like with clients and ourselves too, the decision that we are making are controlled by subconscious mind. You guys know that, right? And all those subconscious programmings are coming from outside, right? People around us or anything, like something happened to us, and that comes into our subconscious mind, and then that's making our decision. We think we are thinking up here and then making a decision, but actually not, right? And then automatically you're already making a decision, and then so that's when you are separated, disconnected, and then you don't see the truth, or you don't see the love. You think this is love. All those things, it's all subconscious mind controlling you, and then that's why we don't see it. We lose awareness, right? And then the beliefs that this is the right thing. But really, so this is like really we have to challenge ourselves that we've been doing this the whole life, but is this really the choice I want to make, right? And then really have to challenge yourself and ask yourself, this is really coming from love, or is this fear, right? And forget all the things that you thought up to here, and then just open a new door, and then really challenging yourself and asking yourself. It's really important. It's not easy because lots of people think, oh, this is what I've been doing and this is right, right? And the subconscious mind tells us, right, this is right, this is safe, so keep doing this, right? Keep doing what you've been doing. This is safe. You are still alive. That's because you've been doing this way, right? But I don't know. That's we can trust that, right? We have to really challenge.
Yeah, well, that's we do that work all the time with people, is helping them heal, because what happens is that They have subconscious people. We all do this. I'm, put me at the front of the line. We have these subconscious beliefs that we build up over our lives that are intended to keep us safe. For example, me just not trusting myself. For example, I really got into that for quite a while, and I thought that was safe to not trust myself. To trust other people that I trusted was safer than trusting myself. Not such a good idea, right? And that subconscious influence on myself, I'm not aware of it, but it's been, like you said, it's been keeping me supposedly safe up until now. And I'm not aware of it. It's operating in the background. That's a tough situation to be in, to become aware of it, and then to let it go.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't serve me. It's actually not helping me stay safe. It's actually not helping me move forward. So that's a very, very big deal. And that's a very big part of everything that we're facing here.
Yeah, it's a real challenge, but like Alex was saying earlier, I like how you said it, you relying on somebody, right? The decision you're making is just you have to rely on somebody, or you are empowering yourself, you trust in yourself and using your own power. That is, to me, it's so clear, right? And relying on somebody, it's giving up your own power.
Yeah, that's
Right?
disempowering.
Disempowering, right? We have so much power that we don't know. It's unlimited. It's amazing how powerful we are, and we have so many information, so many stuff around us, and disempowering us because, like you said, um, some people don't want us to have that power, right?
That it's
Business is not going to survive.
it's everything, Satomi. Like we live in a in a truly a matrix, a system that is built on that. Why? Because of profit or power or whatever you want to, is the driving force behind it. But it's all about depending on others. I mean, even just the art of advertising is creating this need that wasn't there before. So we've become accustomed to even letting other people determine what our desires are. It's ridiculous. It's absurd.
Yeah.
We're completely unconscious of it. So what you're saying, true, is like, to me, at any given point, I think that our homework is really to get in touch with our heart, with our intuition, but also with this, right? And have it connect so that at any given point, when you ask somebody, why do you feel that way? If they say, I don't know, that's something to question. Why don't you know? You're making decisions that, could have life or death results for yourself or for other people. They're pretty big decisions. How can you not know? So the idea about anything, I mean, becoming conscious beings is not just a matter of speech. It truly is. We need to be conscious of why we feel the way that we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's a daily practice, I would say, right? Exercise is one, that breathing work is one, lots of stuff you can do, lots of different tools.
You guys have so many powerful tools for that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
to reset and snap you out of a negative pattern and let you reset and get into a positive pattern. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
What's awesome is that, like, with our combined programs, like what you guys do is you help to tap into the actual shadow, where obviously all of us have trouble seeing. We're intuitive beings and we're tapping in better and better.
Can you speak to the mic, Desi? Sorry, right up to the mic, yeah.
Oh yeah, and what I was saying is, like, when Satomi taps in and pulls up our shadow and helps us to see exactly what our shadow spot is that's holding us back. And then you guys do a subconscious shift. You can literally do like years worth of therapy in one, 1 hour session, essentially going in, finding out what the block is, clearing the block. And then, you obviously hold space while we can put somebody through a program that will instantly, I mean, you do the practices in one day, you have a really badass day. But if you do them consistently every single day, you are literally building yourself an entirely new body and mind. So our combined programs, I think we can help anybody shift out of any awkward situation. We're not going to give anybody a belief, anything to believe in, but we'll let you tap into your intuition and figure out your own truth.
Yeah,
bring in your own power.
yeah,
Right?
that's what it's about. Is about help, about being there and facilitating the process to for people to bring out to connect with and bring out their own power. Right? That's really what it's all about, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
one Japanese word that maybe came from China, but hardship. Like we're facing this hard situation, tough situation right now. The word hardship, the characters that we use is actually a big change, right? So every time we're facing a hardship, actually that literally making a big change, right? So we gotta take it, and that's me. We're facing something, and we're facing big change, and then we can make it a change. Ignore the hardship and ignore the change and stay the same, or take the hardship and create a big change. It's it's up to us, the decision, right?
Yeah, totally see that.
Yeah. So,
With First Memory, they have Alex and Desi here. They have a beautiful program that they work with people, and they do modern ancient empowerment program to remove heavy energy and pull in more light and strength. It's truly transformative work that they do at FirstMemory.one. And in case you aren't familiar with what Satomi and I do, we do psychic readings. That's Satomi right there. Subconscious reprogramming and healing work that we combined. It's a very, very powerful approach indeed. As Desi was saying, we've seen it with clients, how much they can completely turn their life into a whole different story.
Every session amazes us. It's just, oh my God, right? It's just that power that they didn't know they had. It just comes out, and then that's like I get right? The goosebumps. Oh my, it's just amazing. And then people don't know how powerful they are, how powerful we are, and we just want everybody know that everybody's way more powerful than they think. Yeah.
And whatever path people take, I mean, whether they're connecting with us in our programs or not, I mean, we have nothing but the best wishes for you to find your own way through this. That this is a time of great transformation for every individual person in the world and the world as a whole. And we are 100% convinced that although it is difficult right now, and our hearts go out to you in all the suffering that you're going through right now, there is a brighter day. The sun does rise too. The dark night of the soul ends, and the sun rises, and there's a new day that's waiting for all of us, a beautiful future, because we have that power within us to change the program. You know, we've seen it in every movie, right? It's darkest before the dawn, right? So stick with it. Believe in yourself. Connect with humility, and we'll get through this. And we love all of you. And we'll see you on next Sunday.
Next Sunday is New Year's Day.
Yeah, New Year's Day. That's awesome. So we'll see you next Sunday on Aether at 4 p.m. Eastern. And take care.
Yay. Love you guys. Bye.